I'm Adam Collins. This is Crick Buzz Centre Stage, still in London after the final Ashes Test as we wind down the end of this magnificent international summer in this part of the world. The World Cup followed by a thrilling Ashes series which was drawn at 2 rubbers apiece when England defeated Australia in the 5th Test at the Oval yesterday by 135 runs. Now, the Australian coach Justin Langer is very proud of what they achieved through the course of the summer, not least the fact that they retained the urn on English soil for the first time in 18 years. But he's a bit flat as well. He knows they missed an opportunity to stick the landing in South London, to win 3-1, to go home victorious instead of going home having squared the series. And he spoke to us about that after the game, the idea that going forward, he wants his side to be able to back it up more. If they have a great win like they did last week at Old Trafford, he wants them to bounce back the next week rather than having to rely on adversity to bring out their best.
I feel a bit hollow today, actually. It's been a brilliant summer. When you think about the World Cup, if we look back on the whole thing and say we make a semi-final and then retain the Ashes, you'd probably say it's been a successful summer. But I guess when you lose a game like this, when we started the way we did in the Test match, there's a bit of a hollow feeling, but I'm sure when we reflect on it, we'll find a lot of really good stuff that's come out of it.
In terms of rattling off the positives, of course, there's Stephen Smith with his 774 runs. We'll come to him in a moment. But what Langer wanted to do was focus in on his fast bowlers. The fact they had 6 quicks available throughout the series, now firing from the get-go. That's how they got the job done in England, by taking 20 wickets consistently and quickly. Here was the coach talking about his brilliant quicks.
Yeah, definitely, Peter. I think if we cut to the chase, I thought our bowling throughout the series was absolutely world-class. I think, we talked throughout about the maturity, the healthy group of fast bowlers that we're able to have on the park all the time. The bowlers were brilliant. I thought Nathan Lyon as well.
It's a bit less straightforward with the batting. Of course, there is Smith, who's had a series for the ages, and Langer is thrilled about the progress of Marnus, Labuschagne, and of course, Matthew Wade completed his 2nd Ashes ton yesterday. But he knows the batting lineup. When you look at it from Edgbaston in the 1st Test compared to the Oval at the 5th Test, there's been loads of turnover, and they have a lot of room for improvement.
And we didn't bat well enough. That's the truth. Steve Smith was obviously outstanding. What a pleasure to watch. He's a brilliant young man, but what a pleasure to watch him bat. I thought the development of Marnus was exciting, and he worked so hard. He's a bit in the Steve Smith mould. They're the sort of players you love to see do well because he works so hard. I thought the way Matthew Wade scored 2 centuries in this series, obviously including today, we talked about him knocking so hard to get an opportunity. He did that, and then to back it up with 2 Test hundreds in an Ashes series showed great fight and great skill. I loved how Matthew Wade's footwork, but we certainly fell short in other areas, and we need to work on that.
However, despite their troubles with the bat, that doesn't extend to trying to dump David Warner or anything like that. From Langer's perspective, Warner is a champion player. Of course, he's got 21 Test tons. He's been so prolific in the World Cup and the IPL this year. The guy hasn't forgot how to bat. He's just been worked over by a quality fast bowler, Stuart Broad.
I don't think you couldn't say. He had an IPL where he was the leading run scorer. He had the World Cup where he was the leading run scorer. But I think, talking frankly, I thought he let Stuart Broad get into his head, and I think he thought way too much about it. And I've seen it before, but even with the great players, that they have these, every now and then have a series. And I talk about the all-time great players. They have a series where I remember Gilly with Andrew Flintoff. I remember seeing Steve Waugh sit on the team bus in South Africa, and the guy who'd been a run machine for so long he missed out. He got out just before stumps, and I actually, in a sick sort of way, thought it was the best thing I've ever seen. So I don't think great players had lean runs, and I just have lean runs all the time, but even great players have lean runs. And I'm sure David, we know he's a very good player. There's no question about that. But he had a tough, particularly against Stuart Broad. And sometimes, from personally, I used to have it against Murali, and I couldn't solve the issue. And it's so hard when you're trying to problem solve, and then you're in the middle of a big series trying to solve the puzzle. And in this instant, I don't think David solved the puzzle, and he'll be the first to admit that. He'll probably be very relieved. He gets on the Qantas flight in a day's time and doesn't have to face Stuart Broad for a while, I reckon. But he is certainly, there's plenty of upside still in his batting.
And such is the relentless rhythm of international cricket. They go home now, they fly back tomorrow, they have a couple of months off, then they're straight back into it, into the home summer. Test matches against Pakistan, limited overs internationals against Sri Lanka, then test matches over the Christmas period against New Zealand. But a big part of the focus casting forward will be the pivot to T20 cricket. They've never won the World T20 before, now known as the T20 World Cup. And next year it is being played in Australia for the first time. So even though we've just had an Ashes series and we've just had a 50-over World Cup, there's no rest in this industry. It's relentless. We know that, of course, on Crickbuzz Centre Stage, and what a brilliant summer it's been to bring you throughout. On behalf of myself and Harsha and Michael Vaughan and all the team behind the scenes, thanks so much for being part of this wonderful journey. We'll talk to you again soon.